And also, we are doing this in pursuit of the good of our constitution that requires of us to be an open society. So we don't hide behind closed doors when we're discussing matters of national interest. We'd like to welcome you all. Members, the agenda is presented. We've got 14 items, substantive items that are going to be discussed in an open meeting. And then we've got a couple of governance matters and a workshop. So, members, it is a very lengthy agenda. Can I then maybe just show by, if we can see by show of hands, if you can adopt that agenda as it is? Thank you, Madam Masetti. Thank you, Advocate Sitola. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Slobo, angiboni sis. Ramsbia, I saw your name. Thank you, Madam. Thank you. All right, so the agenda has been adopted. So members, if we can, I'm not sure if there are any member that wants to declare anything verbally, anything that is on the agenda today, but any interest to declare verbally. If none, if we can just complete the form, please. If we can just complete the form and send it back to Mr. Mabunda for processing. Would really appreciate that. With that, I would like to then go straight to agenda item number 5. Mr. Shozi, over to you, sir. You will then introduce it and also indicate who will be presenting the detailed part of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to you once more. Good morning to the members, colleagues, and members of the public. Chairperson, as I've stated more than 3 times, that the agenda is long. So to assist you to manage time, I'll also ask or urge colleagues to be brief when they're introducing the submissions, 2 minutes at max, and then take into consideration that the submissions have been read by the members. But on those submissions that are coming to the committee for a second time, the focus should also be made on the issues that were previously raised by the members, either from ELS or ER members. So colleagues will be straight to the point. The first one is it's a grid code related submission from Elikulu Solar PV applying to be exempted from complying with the grid code with regards to the requirement as per section 9.3, which is a power quality. On this one, Ms. Rakhalakane will take members through. Just to manage time, she will be very brief. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shozi. Good morning, Chairperson, members, and colleagues. So the purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to approve the temporary exemptions for Elikulu Solar PV and Grefspan 2 Solar PV from complying with clause 9.3 of the RPP code. And as Mr. Shozi has indicated, in terms of the requirement of clause 9.3, it's a power quality requirement, and the Electricity Subcommittee is duly delegated as per clause 1.7 of the delegation matrix to approve applications from the industry requiring exemptions to the South African grid code. So the RPP is listed in table 1, which is Elikulu Solar Plant and Grefspan are requesting to be exempted for the durations as indicated in table 1, which is until 31 December 2024 for Elikulu Solar and 29 February 2024 for Grefspan Solar 2 PV. And also just to highlight that the reasons for non-compliance and the remedial actions are given in table 2, but I will not go into the details since we are pressed for time. So I will, but the main item, it's for harmonics, and these RPPs are planning to install harmonic filters to be able to deal with the problem. So I will move on to the recommendations, which are on page 8. So it is recommended that the Electricity Subcommittee approve the exemption for Elikulu Solar PV until 31 December 2024 and for Grefspan Solar PV until 29 9 February 2024, and also approve the conditions for the exemptions as given in section 14.2 of the submission. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much to both yourself, Mr. Kalagane, and Mr. Shozi. Members, the submission is before you. Any questions, comments, additions, guidance? Yes, Madam Spear, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Sloan. Thank you, presenters. Chair, just a quick one on the 3F span, because we and the presenters also mentioned this. They couldn't achieve the date of 31st August, and there were quite a few hurdles that were supposed to be jumped for them to meet even this extension of 24 February. Is 24 February achievable? Did they meet the 24 and the October deadline where the manufacturing process was going to be completed? Because all of that depends. The achievement of the date of 29 February 2024 depends on those two matters. And then the other one that is happening in December, where the installation and the commissioning of the filter. I just wanted to ask from the team, because I don't want us to approve dates that are not achievable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. Mkhize?
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenters. I just would like to zoom into 6.1 in terms of the technical risk associated with the exemption. It's something that I think the team can think about. They may respond here or look at it further. My thinking is, why not start now to have some kind of compensation? I wouldn't call it a penalty as such, but some kind of non-compliance compensation. Because if, for example, you've got a poor quality of supply that has got some impact on the systems, and then down the line, the more of these you have, it means that you are going to then get to a situation where you unfairly punish the last straw that breaks the camel's back. I think some kind of foresight should be exercised here. And also the same will go when there's an undertaking to deal with issues so that there can be compliance. Where there's still failure to do that, it should not just go with impunity. And somewhere, I think that whenever you touch people's pockets, they kind of respond better. So I think something must be thought. I think it's the same with the matter that we looked at REC in terms of the registrations, to see that we need to look at the impact. But let's look at such that we don't punish the last straw that happens to break the camel's back. But we start this thing right from the beginning, because some of these things will be incremental in nature in terms of the damage or the cost that would be incurred, until you've got a situation where you find yourself in a crisis. As a regulator, we should be having that foresight that says that we are not there to manage crisis, but we are there to manage the whole system properly. I will leave it at that, because my comment actually applies to all of these, the other items that are going to follow of the same nature regarding exemptions. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. There are no further questions and comments. Mr. Shozi, Mr. Kalagane, if you can assist, please, especially note that the other one is more guidance for the future, but you need to indicate what can be done in preparation for that, so we don't punish the person that brings the last straw that breaks the camel's back. All right, over to you.
Okay.
Ms.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the members for the questions. So to start with the question from Ms. Sibia, in terms of the activities that they had indicated that they will implement to date, I can confirm that the filter has already been designed, manufactured, and is on site. We did request for them to provide us with a report before coming to this meeting to present, indicating those very reasons that some of the dates that they had indicated had already passed. So the filter was designed, manufactured, and is on site, and will hopefully also be commissioned in this month. And for the comment by Mr. Mkhize, we do note it, and but what I can indicate for now in terms of this particular submission is that how yes, in terms of compensation in the form of in the form of maybe requesting them to pay a certain amount, let me put it like that. So currently how we are dealing with it in the submission is with regards to deemed energy payments, because the NSPs have a right to disconnect them from the system should their non-compliance affect other customers on the network. And if they are disconnected or they are curtailed, they cannot claim for that output. But we do take the guidance and maybe in terms of coming out with something that is clear and it's not necessarily only dependent on as and when. Thanks. So we'll stop there.
Thank you. But I think the guidance that Mr. Mkhize is providing, colleagues, is that we need to, at the GCAC or in other platforms, that we need to design something upfront that is about compensation for possible damage to, which is indicated on the issues here, for possible damage to equipment, both by the customer that buys as well as by the end user. So that at least let's have that framework so that everybody knows what they're working towards. It's also, as they always say, as he puts it, what doesn't touch your pocket, you're probably not going to do it. So the point here must be clear upfront that if got this is the cost of not fixing it, and therefore you actually need to see and make sure that cost is higher than the cost of not fixing, or the cost, the penalties must be higher than the cost of doing nothing, so that as more of these variable energies come on stream, because the idea that you can just curtail somebody, yes, it may help the system temporarily, but it means it also robs the system of the power. So think about it. So I think that is all that Mr. Mkhize is saying. And perhaps let's have some kind of a report in 6 months to see what is it that you've done as the team to make sure that you've come up with an incentive, not just a penalty, but an incentive for people to make sure that these things are fixed on time, to prevent anything that may happen in the future. So let's not deal with it when it's a crisis. That's all Mr. Mkhize is asking. With that, colleagues, that was the response, Mr. Mkhize. I hope we are covered. Thank you. I see your thumbs up. With that, colleagues, then can I then take you to the decision that is sought, which is on page 8, and Mr. Kalagane has done me a favor and read it into the record. Except perhaps the conditions. I thought we were going to read those as well, which are conditions A to C. A is that the RPP generator must demonstrate through testing and otherwise to the satisfaction of the systems operator and NSP that the RPP current capabilities in relation to the exempted code requirements, and provide assurance that this capability will be maintained for the duration of the exemption period. B, that the second condition, should the RPPs generate a non-compliance to the code requirements necessitate the systems operator or the NSP to curtail or to disconnect the RPP, no deemed energy payment shall be claimed for the output that was curtailed or disconnected. 3, that the RPP generator must submit quarterly reports to NERSA and the Grid Code Secretariat on progress made to achieve compliance. Reports shall be submitted to NERSA code, a Grid Code team at nersa.org.za. Thank you, members. With that, can I show by show of hands if we can approve those recommendations? Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Madam Spear. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. Madam Aseti, thank you. Thank you. We've got a decision there. Let's go to item 6, Mr. Shozi.
Thanks, Chairperson. The next one is similar. It's a request for an exemption from complying with the clause 9 of the RPP code. The plans applying for exemption are listed in table 1. Mr. Maluleke will be briefly introducing the submission and then allow members to engage. Over to you, Bob.
No, thanks, Mr. Shozi. Good morning, Chairperson, members, and the colleagues. The purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to approve the temporary exemption of Mulelo DR PV plant, Fredendal Solar PV plant, Aurora Solar plant, and Chaba Wind Farm from complying with Appendix 9 of the RPP Grid Code version 3.1 of January 2022. The Electricity Subcommittee is duly delegated as per the clause 1.7 of the delegation matrix to approve applications from the ESI requiring exemption from South African Grid Code. The applications listed on Table 1 are due for their 6 yearly routine testing and are currently not complying with the Grid Code, hence the request for exemption until the dates as stipulated on Table 1 as reviewed by the GCAC. And also Table 2 shows the reasons of non-compliance and the remedial actions in detail for those RPPs. And then as for Fredendal and Aurora solar plants, the NERSA Grid Code has identified the risk of not achieving the compliance within the stipulated time frame, which is 31st of December 2023. And the applicants have confirmed that all activities have been done on their side, and they've requested RETEC to come to site to witness the testing. However, the validation of the test might lapse into 2024, and the NERSA Grid Code team recommended that the extension be granted until 31st March 2024 to avoid the submission coming back for another extension. And it is recommended that the Electricity Subcommittee approve the temporary exemption as per the item 14.1 on page 10 and table 3 of the submission. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Maluleke. I was kind of hoping you'd also read those recommendations into the record, but it's fine. Members, any specific comments on this submission? Thank you, Madam Spear.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the presenter. Chair, just a comment on the one, the two, Fredendal and Aurora. Yes, you managing the risk because I also looked at the activities left, and the team also confirmed that they looked at the activities left to say is 31st December achievable. But then you agree. You then came up with the date of 31st March. My question is on the client themselves. Are they in agreement with this moving to 31st? March, will that be to their advantage? Because from what you are saying, they are insisting that they can still meet 31st of December because obviously that is within their application. I just wanted to know from that side to say we are presenting now what is a risk mitigation from our side as NERSA because we see the risk, but where is the customer with regards to this issue of the 31st March 2024 instead of what they requested of 31st December? Thank you.
Thank you, Slop. Any other questions, members? Comments? Taking into account that the comments made by Mr. Mkhize earlier apply to this as well. Okay, over to you, Mr. Maluleke.
Okay, no, thanks, Chairperson. Yeah, yes, upon Realizing that risk, we did communicate with the RPPs to check their progress and as I've mentioned on the submission, and also to suggest the date. So they've confirmed and they're in agreement that the 31st of March is an advantage for them, that they will be able to be done with everything. So they are aware of the date change also. Thank you, Chairperson.
All right. Thank you. With that, I hope, Madam Spear, you are covered by the response. Thank you, ma'am. All right, so members, can I take you to the decision that is sought? It's again on page, or this one is on page 10. It spills over to page 11. Just to read, so the conditions are exactly the same as the conditions that were imposed on the previous one. So I'm not going to read those into the record. But the other ones, it's really just Mlilo. The RPV plant is asking for an exemption. I'm not going to read the clauses as well, but it's basically that they're all in terms of Appendix 9, basically clauses A923 to A925. But the exemption that was requested, is until the 31st of August 2024. Free Edendale Solar PV, as indicated, that applied for December 2023, but the exemption that is requested by the team is for the 31st of March 2024. The same applies to Aurora Solar PV, with the exemption that is requested being the 31st up until the 31st of March 2024. And Chaba Wind Farm, that one is also up until the 31st of March 2024. So members, by show of hands, can we approve? Thank you, Madam Assetti. Thank you, Madam Spear. Thank you, Mr. Nkiza. Thank you, Advocate Sitole. Mr. Maluleke, you've got your decision. Back to you, Mr. Shozi, for Illovo Estate.
Thanks, Chairperson. Illovo Estate sugar mill exemptions will be presented by Mr. Zung. The request is similar, but on this time on transmission network code, they are requesting to be exempted from 3.1.3.4 and 3.1.6.2, and also on the information exchange code, Appendix 3. Over to you, Kwabin.
Thanks, Mr. Shozi. Good morning, members and colleagues. So the purpose of this submission is to request the ELS to approve Illovo Estate Sugar Mill's temporary exemption from complying with clauses 3.134 and 3.162 of the transmission code, as well as Appendix 3 of the information exchange code. So Illovo, it's a sugar mill that also have a cogeneration plant. It's got an installed capacity of 8.5 megawatts, whereby 5 megawatts is for own use, 1 megawatt is for reserve, and then it exports 2.5 megawatts to the grid. I want to take members to table 2 on page 4. So these two exemptions, 3.134 and 3.16, including information exchange code, they have been applied for in the past. The corrective action plan was provided. However, due to the age of this plant, they couldn't meet the requirements of the grid code. So the system operator, they have conducted some tests, of which are also included as Appendix A, to indicate that due to the age of this plant, it won't have an impact on a network if they can be allowed to operate within those specified limits. So this exemption, initially, Illovo applied it for 10 years for tape alternator number 1 and for tape alternator number 2 for a period of 20 years. However, its license started on the 1st of April, and then it was for a period of 15 years. So it will expire in March 2029. So as a result, because an exemption cannot be granted to an entity that is not licensed, it was recommended that this temporary exemption be aligned with the term of the license. Based on that, I want to take members to the recommendation on page 9, whereby we recommend that the ELS approve the temporary exemption for Ilovo as stipulated on table number 3, which is clause 3.14 and 3.62 of the network code, as well as information exchange code appendix 3, which has to do with planning data parts B, D, and H. All these exemptions are temporarily up until 31st of March 2029. The conditions are still the same, except for one condition that is not relevant to provide maybe reports to NERSA, because they can only achieve compliance once the plant has reached a useful life. As a result, they are not required to provide any corrective action plan. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Mr. Zungu, before I open the matter up for the members to engage with, by the way, on this particular one, is the power that is exported is in respect of the STPP, or do they just export power on a continuous basis?
Initially, in 2014, there was a 2-year power purchase agreement with Eskom, which was renewed afterward. Yes, it falls under short-term power purchase program, because the license, there is a condition to say when there's short STPP expire before 6 months, they must be renewed. But it is falling under STPP of Eskom.
All right, no, thank you. Members, the submission is before us for engagement questions. Any specific questions on this one? Taking into account all the other issues that have been raised. By show of hands. Manzini, seems like there are no questions from members. So with that, members, can I then take you to the decision that is sought, that is on page 9 of 9 of the submission, or the overstamped 9, page 9 of 19. I think Mr. Zungu has indicated what the decision is that is sought. So can I just see by show of hands, members, if we can approve the paragraph 14.1 and 14.2? Thank you, Madam Assetti. Thank you, Madam Katsitola, Mr. Mkize, and Madam Spear. Thank you, members. Mr. Zungu, you've got your decision. Back to you, Mr. Shozi.
Thank you, Chairperson. The next one, Chairperson, it's an application by Eskom to include INEP electrified areas in the 9 provinces as listed in Schedule 1 of the Eskom distribution license. So on this one, Miss, I'm hoping I'll pronounce it her surname correctly. Miss Nechi Feve will be taking us through. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chair, I think I'm going to take this one since Ms. Nechifefe is not here. Through you, Chair.
Please proceed, Mr. Ramakoka. Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members, and good morning, colleagues. Chair, this is an application by Eskom to include INEP electrified areas in 9 provinces in its electricity distribution license Schedule 1, which is the list of areas of supply. Chairperson, this is what Eskom does on an annual basis after they have received INEP funding from the DMRE. This application, Chairperson, is in line with its condition 5.1.3 of Eskom's distribution license, and is also processed in terms of the rules, the act, and the internal procedure. With that said, we request that the ELS to approve that Schedule 1 of Eskom distribution license be amended to include INEP electrified areas in 9 provinces as submitted. Secondly, in 30 days, the outstanding areas of municipalities must be submitted in terms of the GIS, so as it can be uploaded in terms with NED numbers on the NERSA GIS. Thirdly, the tariff to be charged on the area mentions above should be the NERSA approved ESCOM's tariff. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkoka. Members, you've got the submission before us. If we can engage with it, any questions, comments? Thank you, Madam Spear.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the presenter. Just from my side, a small issue on the alignment between 212 and 4.8. If that can be, because when you look at it, it's got different meanings. 212 says ESCOM shall endeavor to allocate in terms of triple PF, but then 4.8 talks about will. So if we can clean up those things with regards to that issue, so that we can have one, whether it is enforced, which is a will, or shall endeavor. And then I just wanted clarity on 3.5, where it says the funds so transferred shall be held in trust by ESCOM until fully utilized for the intended purpose. So, which means then, my understanding from the past was that project is done, then ESCOM claims from the department. So now the team is saying the funds will be issued up front. Obviously, I'm assuming it will be a separate fund. Someone will have access to it. And such funds always have issues. Have the team looked at the access to the funds, the issue of who gets the interest from the funds, etc., and also the issues of auditing that fund to make sure that everything is still there as it's supposed to be. And then 3.6, the timelines there, I just wanted to confirm from the team if they are achievable, because when you look at it, the issue of rollover of unspent funds and giving the department just 3 months from 31st March. Normally, the rollovers, they because there are funds involved, looking at invoices coming on the last day, all of these things require even to actually deal with the audits, etc. So, is that date achievable, where the department will have to respond formally by, because it says will, because those issues can create problems on how the project occurs. That one of the funding also, I was asking in line with 4.2.1, which also has issues of audit of the electrification processes. So these timelines we are having here, are they achievable when we have all of these things? Because this project is huge. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. Mkiza?
Thanks, Chairperson. Thanks to the presenter. I would just like to know if there were any objections or comments or complaints emanating from municipalities, if there are any disputes, around this allocation to ESCOM. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Mr. Rakalkan, why am I thinking Docus now? Sorry, Mr. Ramokok, please respond.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me start with the last one that was asked by Mr. Mkize, the one of objections from municipalities in which ESCOM is going to implement these projects. So, Chairperson, the ESCOM, when it applies to the DMRE lately, it does provide IDP letters that are coming from municipalities, which directs them
to areas that can be electrified by Eskom. So with that letters, they seem to be concerned over Eskom electrifying those areas with that IDP letter. When I come to the other, the comments from Ms. Sibia, we accept this one, will and shall. I think that it's noted, we have to look into it. The other two, INEP funding, and in terms of auditable and all this issue, this program, Chairperson, is a program of the DMRE. It's managed and distributed by the DMRE. So yes, NERSA is part of the advisory committee. We sit with them, but the management and other decisions are made by the DMRE. As it's an administrative action where we include the electrified areas so as they become regulated asset base, and they will be part of the tariff issues after all. So when it comes to auditing how the money was used and other issues that we cannot talk to or account to. Similarly, in terms of the timelines of the rollovers and when money, whether Eskom can return money or roll it over, still it falls under the DMRE's concern. If whether the said area was not electrified and Eskom requests a rollover for the next financial year, that's an area that we are generally not involved in. Thanks, Chairperson. Let me stop there. I know Mr. Murati normally does assist me with these ones because we work hand in hand with the DMRE. Thank you, Chairperson.
All right. I see Mr. Mkize's hand. Is that an old hand, Mr. Mkize?
Apologies, a lingering one. Thank you.
All right, thank you. But before you actually sign off on this one, Mr. Ramkok, I think the question, therefore, that I think would be coming through Ms. Bia's head is, so what is our role in this? If this is a bilateral between Eskom and the DMRE, why does it come to us? Is it because of the issue of tariffs? Yeah, so what is our responsibility in this?
Chairperson, after the DMRE has funded these areas to be electrified, the electrified areas, their networks and their infrastructure becomes part of regulated asset that us as NERSA will look into it and then talk to cost of supply, all these other issues that relates to tariff. And therefore we will say, end users in these areas will be charged this tariff for relating to cost of supply and all the other items that we consider when we consider tariff increases and stuff like that. So that's how far I can respond. We put that into the license so as it forms part of our control, and therefore we can look into it when we looking on the issues of tariff. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Ramakoka. Sloba, I hope we are covered.
Chair, as long as we won't have legal issues when these two parties fight and we are dragged into this issue, and I'm covered.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. Mkize, you are covered?
Covered. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, then members, can I then take you to the decision that is sought? It has been read into the record. It's on page 4 paragraph 14. Members, by show of hands, can we approve? Thank you, Madam Maseti, Mr. Mkize, Madam Smia, Advocate Sitole. Thank you, Advocate. Right, Mr. Ramkoka, you've got your decision. Going back to you, Mr. Shozi, and can Tim please just talk to the issue raised by Mr. Mkize, but we need to say something there. It can't be none. So if we can just talk to that without us having to ask it in a public platform. Mr. Shows.
Thanks, Chairperson. Dr. Konjelwayo will be leading a team and presenting the submission on ESCOM application for 2024-2025 retail tariff and structural adjustment, commonly known as ERSA. Dr. Konjelwayo, over to you.
Yes, good morning, Chair. Good morning, members and colleagues. So yes, Chair, in the submission itself, there was an omission in terms of providing the summary of the application as well as the deliberation or analysis that we undertook. We will update the submission before it goes for approval through the energy regulator. But Chair, the purpose of this submission is to request the electricity subcommittee to recommend to the energy regulator the approval of ESCOM's retail tariff and structural adjustment.
So sorry, Dr. K. You are not going to mention numbers, right? Because those are for the actual numbers are for the ER, correct?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So it's the approval of the ESCOM retail tariff and structural adjustment application for the 2024-2025 financial year. So, Chair, this application is really the liquidation of the decision that was made by the regulator on the MYPD 5 2024-2025 financial year to liquidate revenues, so as shown on page 10 of 90. So it's really about translating those revenues into tariffs for specifically ESCOM's own customers, standard tariff customers, as well as municipalities. As we know that ESCOM sells about 47% of its electricity to municipalities. So the application is to request that translation of those revenues into tariffs that are specific to its customers and municipalities, and also due to the issue of the lag in the financial years between ESCOM and municipalities, where municipalities financial year starts on the 1st of July of every year, and ESCOM will still need to be able to recover those revenues over over its own financial year, which starts from the 1st of April to the end of March of each year. So this application splits the revenues that will be recovered from municipalities between the first 3 months or the last 3 months of the municipal financial year and the 9 months, so that ESCOM is able to recover the full revenues. So that calculation has been done in the RFD, and the increase that is applicable to municipalities from July to March, July 2024 to March 2025 is shown on page 16 of 90 of the RFD. And also, Chair, the application is to also request the approval of the affordability subsidy that is paid to Home Light 20M customers. So, Chair, this is an old subsidy. It's just a carrying over of the old subsidy, but these customers are going to see the same increase as the rest of the customers of ESCOM. So, Chair, if I may take you to the recommendation, the recommendation is on, I think it's page 5.
Starts from page 4.
Yes, it starts from page 4 to page 5 of the submission. That is to request the electricity subcommittee to recommend to the energy regulator the approval of reasons for decision for the ESCOM's retail tariff and structural adjustment application for 2024-25, as well as to approve the schedule of tariffs that is attached as an annexure to this submission. I will stop there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Konjelwayo. Members, you've got a submission before you. With that apology on the analysis that is not reflective here. Hopefully, Dr. Konjelwayo has alluded to the matter, but just to indicate that this one was an attempt to make sure that we've got an ERSA approved before the end of the year, so that because it's a major input into the municipal tariffs increases. So we needed to we're trying to manage the time. So, the attempt is to try to get the municipal tariffs done earlier this year than we normally do, or next year, sorry, than we normally do. But anyway, over to you, members. Any further questions, taking into account the consent raised by Mr. Mkhize earlier in committee? Any further questions, comments? If none, members, can I then take you? So unfortunately, we can't discuss the numbers here because this is we are only recommending to ER that the numbers can only be disclosed once the ER has had a glance of what is being proposed and the why. Mr. Mkhize?
Thanks, Chairperson. I think it's always important that confirmation of compliance with our own methodology, with also the electricity pricing policy throughout, just to make sure that we sitting with a situation where there won't be comebacks. And then also I appreciate that there is a rounding off, but if we just look at the figures and sometimes deal with how they are presented. For example, you've got the generation, the wheeling side indicating a 270 and a 269, and one can see that maybe there's a rounding off at retail level. But if it can just be indicated, as to what, maybe even put a figure there for the sake of just how it then looks to a reader, because we take it that it's going to be used by other people besides ourselves. Other than that, I'm good with the report. I just want to understand when it comes to the structural adjustments, when are we seeing that? Because it is in line with this whole issue of saying when we're dealing with these matters, I think in the background for such, it will help to present the global picture and then zoom into what is being requested so that we can see that all these moving parts are taking us into the same direction, and that we keep having a bird's eye view. Because if you look at 5.1, it is clear that these are just average price increases, and then there are no structural adjustments. And the question is then, when are we envisaging having those structural adjustments? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Any further questions, comments, members? If none, can I hand over back to you, Dr. Konjelwayo and team?
Yes, thanks, Chair. So yeah, we will take into account those enhancements before this document goes to ER in terms of referring to the appropriate framework, the ERTA framework, as well as other applicable policies in that regard. And we'll also take into account the issue of the decimals and the rounding off to provide sort of maybe a footnote to clarify if there are any rounding off issues. And then in terms of the structural adjustment, there was an application that was submitted previously from Eskom, and it was deliberated on by the ELS. And I think the view was that with so many developments taking place into the industry, particularly around the new pricing framework that is currently under implementation, if I may call it that, the PDM, that it would be worthwhile to put this project on hold so that we have sort of a global approach to pricing issues, both from the municipal space as well as from the Eskom side. So we will consider any structural adjustments going into the future. I think once this process has been concluded, Chair, I think I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Konjelwayo. Hope, Mr. Mkhize, you are covered. Thumbs up, maybe. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. With that, with no further questions or comments, can I then, members, take you to the decision that is sought? Unfortunately, again, without being able to, well, at least the recommendations on page 4 and 5, that spill over to page 5. There are no details because those details can only be disclosed once the matter has served before ER. The recommendations are on paragraph 13.1. And because they are short, I'm going to read them into the record. The ELS is requested to recommend to the energy regulator, 1, to approve the attached reasons for decisions, or I guess to recommend to approve the decision as well as the reasons for decisions for the electricity for ESCOM retail tariff structural adjustment application for the year 24-25, which is annexed as Annexure A, and to approve the ESCOM schedule of tariffs, which is annexed as Annexure B. Members, by show of hands, can we approve that recommendation to ER? Thank you, Madam Assetti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. Thank you, Madam Spear. Dr. Konjula, you've got your decision. Mr. Shozi, can I take you to item 10, please?
Thank you, Mr. Kumete. Chairperson, the next one, the submission is coming back from the ELS of the 7th of November, where the members gave the team the guidance on issues that needed to be clarified and improved. As indicated, when the colleagues are introducing the team, the focus should be on what those issues were and how they have been addressed in the submission than to start rehashing the entire submission. But they will not be stopped to touch on the issues that are crucial to this meeting. The team will be led by Ms. Masika, supported by Tatin Takeni and Mr. Makbe. Over to you, Lekum.
Thank you, Mr. Shozi. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members. Good morning, colleagues. The purpose of the submission is to request the subcommittee to recommend to the energy regulator to approve the EPD rules and the accompanying reasons for decision. Also to note the preparation which involves undertaking capacity assessment, as well as planning and enabling stakeholder readiness, and also to note that the implementation of the rules is effective from 2025-2026. Members are requested to note that after submission to the RSU, further editing took place. So we further uploaded the documents that were enhanced on the 1st of December, mainly to remove track changes and minor edits. I will not go into further details as we are pressed for time, but maybe I should mention that before we submit to the ER, the work formula will be corrected as the second KE should actually be KD. And the rest of the typos will not be mentioned here. As Mr. Shozi has mentioned, the submission is coming here for the second time. On the 7th of November, the ELS considered the submission and resolved to return it for further enhancements, and also requested that the detailed plans be provided. So we have drafted 2 plans, one on EPD rule and one plan B as the alternative to the EPD rule. And furthermore, the issues that were raised by the members have been dealt with in table that is under section 7 on page 6 of 134. I take it as read. The plans will be presented by my colleagues, but before I let them present, I would like to just mention that we had a successful webinar on the EPDR rule on the 23rd of November. There were underlying elements such as regulatory accounts, tariff setting, price discovery, which were discussed by experts, and who also responded to various questions from people who attended. We are hoping that this open forum provided a platform and for informative space and to those members who attended. Maybe let me ask Mark Bear to present Plan A on the EPDR rules. Thanks, Chair.
Good morning, Chairperson, members and colleagues, all protocol observed. I will dig a little bit deeper into the work plan because that was one of the key areas of enhancement. Excuse me. That were requested in the November 7th. So just to kick off by saying that we appreciate that this roadmap is an ambitious endeavor, and we're cognizant of this. However, as has been mentioned before by other strategic planners, every strategy needs a dose of hope, but hope is not a strategy. And it's with this in mind that we developed and interrogated the work plan that's provided in the submission. The highlights of the work plan are there are two main phases. One is the readiness phase, which will continue up until the end of 2024, and then the tariff setting and price setting phase that will occupy Q1 to 2025. The critical path of the work plan until March 2026 includes intensive stakeholder consultation, finalization of regulatory accounts, development of tariff setting models, and the collection of the data necessary to enable these instruments to be used. The final tariff setting will start in January 2025 to meet the deadlines outlined for the 25-26 publication of the tariffs and prices. A couple of points worth noting. Firstly, as has become apparent in certain other subcommittee meetings, we are aided by the fact that we are perhaps a bit further ahead than we thought with the development of the cost allocation manuals that came to light. And we are aware that there's some of these CAMs, as they are called, that there are one or two that are available for the electricity industry, but they're quite old and would need to be updated. But at least we have a foundation from which to start, which should expedite that. We're also assisted by the GIZ supported capacity needs and training needs assessment, which started in November and should be finalized by Q2 2024. This will deal with the issues around capacity and will enable NERSA to implement the necessary training in advance and in preparation for the setting of tariffs in 25-26. Also, there is an ongoing advocacy and stakeholder engagement program, which you'll have noticed in the work breakdown structure. This was to engage with stakeholders throughout the readiness period and extending after the publication of tariffs and prices to ensure that we are well positioned to explain the outcomes of these setting the tariff and price setting process. We've included a line there called procurement. Although we're very aware that this is not generally discussed at ELS, but it had to be in there as a rolled up task to make sure that the work plan was cognizant of the need to procure the support and the time associated therewith. Finally, we appreciate that the level of effort is huge, but we do believe it's achievable. The work plan will deliver prices and electricity for the electricity industry in Q1 2025, which should be in time to enable the necessary parliamentary and statutory process to be included in time for the 25-26 financial year. I leave it at that and look forward to any questions that may be forthcoming. Thank you.
Chairperson, would you like us to proceed to Plan B before questions, or?
Yes, please. Let's conclude the presentations.
All right, thank you. Ms. Santakeni, please lead us through Plan B. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Masike, and good morning to members and members of the public. Plan B is aimed at extending the current ESCOM pricing framework. This is the focus on licensees pricing instead of industry pricing determination. And this will involve review of the MYPD methodology and applying the revised MYPD methodology to the unbundled ESCOM and all other licensees. And also determination of revenues to all the licensees, allowing and approving licensees tariff plans using the cost of supply. And the timelines are as follows in summary, Chairperson.
the process of reviewing the MYPD methodology will start with the identifying the areas to be reviewed, which we are targeting to conclude that activity before the December closure, by the 19th December. And then after that, we'll then develop a consultation paper, which will take into account, which will then be published for stakeholder comments. And we hope to have the consultation paper, to have the reviewed or revised MYPD methodology after all the stakeholder engagement process by the 16th July 2024. And then that will then enable licensees to begin to submit their revenue applications. And our aim is we expect Eskom generation, transmission, distribution to start submitting their application after June 2024, which implies that by February 2025, we will have concluded that process of determination of their revenues. That also includes municipalities. Municipalities can also use the revised MYPD methodology, which they can also submit their revenue determination, which we are also targeting to conclude by January 2025. The plan also includes the approval of retail tariff plan, which we aim to have it concluded by March 2025. And then after that, we'll have the ERTA process unfolding for Eskom generation and distribution, which we are aiming that the whole process for determining the tariff for licensees will be concluded around June 2025. That is the tariff for NTSA, the tariff for Eskom generation, Eskom distribution, also including the tariff for municipalities. All that process is aimed to be concluded by June 2025 after review of the MYPD methodology. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Yes, Madam Masika.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to indicate the recommendations that we are seeking.
Yes, please.
The ELS is kindly requested to recommend to the energy regulator to approve the rule, also to approve the reasons for decision, and also note the preparation for the pricing rule, which involves ELR capacity assessment in 2023-24, as well as stakeholder readiness planning in 2023-24-25. And then also note that these rules will be applicable in 25-26. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for the presentation. Before I open it up, just wanted to indicate to members that, by the way, it was interesting reading in detail now with a particular different eye, reading the electricity pricing document that has got 60 positions. Some of them explicit, others captured in terms of a code. But it's interesting how the foresight of the individuals that must have written this document in terms of the preparation for the industry. Unfortunately, it's in it is still, there's still the view of the EDI restructuring, which didn't quite take place with all the attempts that were made. But the document is dated, still needs some reviewing. But a lot of the things that are being proposed are actually essentially covered by the electricity pricing policy document. And I think, I always want to then say, take my hat off to Ompia Pane and the team those many years ago. But members, the document, the
seem to have lost Mr. Kometa, or is it me?
Same here.
Same.
Okay. Mr. Mabunda, can you try and contact the chair and tell him that there may be a challenge? We can't hear you.
Members, sorry, I lost connection on one of my on my main computer. So if you can just bear with me, but I'm hoping you can hear me. I'm now running it from the iPad. Okay, if we can then continue, members. If there are any comments, I'm going to reboot on the other side. If there are any comments, members, and questions, by show of hands.
Chair, we have Madam Maseti signed up.
Yes, Madam Maseti, you can go first, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I thought because this matter has been discussed before here, and there were some concerns, especially with regards to issues of capacity. Yes, that has been touched on in terms of the training that is planned. But we just need to be certain about the timing of that training and ensuring that not only NERSA is ready for the information that will be required for us to implement the new methodology and the rules, but it's also important to make sure that the industry and the licensees are also ready for the implementation. So I did not hear much regarding the state of readiness of the industry in terms of our own plans. What is it that we are going to do to make sure that the information, the nature of the information that will be collected to be able to implement the methodology, that such information will be readily available, packaged in a manner that will be useful, and be able to access that information from our side. So the state of readiness from the supply side is very important, and also from the customer. So I haven't heard what plans we put in place there, Chairperson. Maybe just to strengthen that aspect so that we balance things up when it comes to the state of readiness. And Chairperson, also just in terms of the tools from our side, it is one thing to talk about training people, but also I think in terms of the the software that may be needed to ensure the efficiency, and but also just the the capacity of keeping the details on customer specific information and needs will be very important. So it means we also need to have the resources for that from our side, apart just from training of the human resource, but the systems that need to be in place so that the information is kept readily available and will be able to implement, because it means that we only have, say, 1 year, 3 months before that. So it's very important also just to know very well what are the key things that in this 1 year, 2 months or so, what are these big things that must be in place, and what is it that we are going to do, and things like that. So that's where I would like to come in, Chairperson, because that was a concern from our side. If we can get clarity on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Maseti. Mr. Mkiza.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenter in attending to the issues raised. When I look at page 7 of 134, when it comes to the readiness of the industry, they're saying that there's there plans for licenses to be ready, but if there is still work to be done, extension can be provided. I think we need to be careful with that, so that it's clear that these things are still time bound. It cannot just be an extension. So we need to be able to consider that. And also some language editing on the rules, because I'm not so sure whether we still call it a rule or there are rules, and then you have certain a rule within the rules. as a document, just to look at that, and just want to get clarified here. Whenever you've got a plan A or plan B, one is left with the impression that plan A is the plan, and then plan B kicks in if plan A fails. You can still have plan C, D, or whatever. But they whenever we're talking of like using that language, one gets an impression that something is coming in as a rescue mechanism rather than being the plan. So here, when I look at this, I get a feeling that, or my understanding is that we've got Plan B actually being a transitionary mechanism or a stopgap measure, which means that it should also be done with diligence, unlike when you've got a I would say a rescue plan, which is Plan B. Just that understanding, because how we engage with the public also in this regard, there shouldn't be confusion, putting emphasis on really getting what we now have as Plan B working, because it will have to be implemented and actually even help to give time to refine the other one. I just want to get understanding in my head if that is the right understanding I should have on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Any further questions, comments, members? Okay, before I hand over this to Madam Masiki and the team to respond in detail, can I just say something, members? For instance, I think the question raised by Mr. Mkhize actually probes this thing properly. And it relates to the question asked by Madam Masiki. In our case, the whole issue here is that the team can't begin to develop any tools, can't begin to spend any money. We can't begin to engage properly on the implementation until there's a decision. And therefore everything is predicated on what happens on December the 14th. So Plan B says, if there is no decision by ER by the 14th, then Plan B kicks in. Because it's quite clear that if we don't do that, we will definitely not be able to meet all the requirements in 2025, come 2025 March, come March 2025. So Plan B kicks in only if there is no decision in December. This is unfortunately, the hope was that decision could have been reached a whole lot earlier, but it has proved to be difficult. But see, Plan A, Mr. Mkhize, is one that says if there's a decision on the rule, so the rule is a subordinate piece of legislation. So once there is a rule, yes, you give people time to comply with the rule, but it's very binding to all the players in the industry that will be so indicated in the rule itself, in terms of whom the rule might apply to. So it's not like once the rule a rule is, I guess, is just lower than a regulation, but once there is a rule, then everybody would actually have to comply with that rule. With everything, it's not discretionary. So hence, even your actual note, Mr. Mkhize, is welcome. That, you know, in terms of extensions, it's one thing to if people don't quite fully comply with the law, you do give them time to ensure compliance. But it's once there's a rule, it becomes applicable. So I think that's the one issue I wanted to raise. That Plan B is only if there is no decision. Therefore, if there's no decision on Plan A, then Plan A is canned and then Plan B comes into being. Because unfortunately, we've got a limited number of people, so we can't exactly split their effort into Plan A and Plan B, even in terms of resources, in terms of money. We would not be able to do both. We would not be able to be developing, expanding MYPD to everybody, especially municipalities, and expanding the RTP type process to all of them, to everybody, at the same time still be developing models on the site. It wouldn't be practical. But I think the whole point, Madam Maseti, is that what has been missing is a vision that says we've been trying to develop a vision. This is directionally where we want to go, and it's a rule, and it will be if it's approved, it will start to have effect on this particular day. That then everybody knows this is what we are working towards. The engagements become more focused if the rule is approved. But if the rule is not approved, clearly we have to then divert our focus to something else, which is Plan B. So, Madam Masike, I was hoping that I was just assisting you perhaps in providing the answers, but over to you and the team.
Thank you, Chairperson. I would like Mr. Mark Beer to assist with answering the question from Ms. Maseti on the industry readiness.
Thank you, Ms. Masika, and thank you, Ms. Maseti, for the question. I will. It's quickly to say that if in the appendix that was that came with the submission, we had tried to make the work plan and the breakdown structure and the Gantt chart as comprehensive as possible, but also as concise as possible. And so if you go to Annexure F, you will see that the critical path is showing in red, and many elements of that critical path are those key elements that need to be in place, such as the review of the NESA models, the consultation with ESCOM and SALGA, for example, and then putting the database together for the data that's collected, core architecture of the models, and so forth. And each of these key elements of the critical path are there, and these talk to both the readiness by the industry. So and as you can see from the work breakdown structure, slightly over 180 lines of activity are engaged, but we've rolled some of them up to make this more readable. But within each of those, for example, model review or develop draft models, there are a number of activities that relate to kind of speaking to stakeholders, developing something, going back, engaging with stakeholders, and then coming back before finalizing, etc. So there's a lot of backwards and forwards consultation built into it. And as I say, whatever is key for the stakeholders is key for us at the same time, both in terms of our capacity building and in terms of what we need to do. But the critical path, I think, actually highlights some of those. If there's any specifics, then I can talk to that. But I'm just conscious of the fact that we have time. So I've tried to answer questions 1 and 2 in one, if that's acceptable. Thank you very much.
Madam Masike, any further input?
Thank you. The others are just for enhancing. Mr. Mkhize, we will take the document to the language editor. Thank you very much. And on page 7 of 134, that sentence would be enhanced. I think for Plan A and Plan B, Mr. Gumede has already talked to that. Thank you, Chairperson. We'll stop there.
Mr. Mkhize, follow up? You might be on mute, sir.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking to a muted mic. Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenters and for their responses. I'm just a bit uneasy, if I can put it like that, with regard to the timing. We plan, and how much contingency is in the plan is another question. And sometimes they say you plan and then life happens. I would like us to maybe to consider, Chair, even workshopping. I know we are fast stretched now, and towards this time with all the challenges. But I think we need to critically look at the time, because it always helps when you've got a change. You kind of are not in a too desperate situation to effect the change, such that you may end up not having the best product. But when you've got something as this Plan B, that is taking place as a stopgap measure, whilst you are really can say, now I'm switching over to a Rolls-Royce kind of a machine. So for me, I would like us to really interrogate that from a point of view of ensuring that everything runs smoothly, because when we know that change sometimes is pain, and some people would not necessarily would be opposed to change for other reasons and delay things. So we don't have to fall foul of some of the tricks that people would do, because we understand that if you are in an industry like this, there are vested interest, and they will tend to sometimes even undermine good work that comes from any quarter, especially from an authority like ourselves. I will leave it at that, Chairperson. It's an uneasiness that I think has got reason, and not necessarily, I tend not to be very wrong when it comes to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I think your uneasiness is understood, and I think for me, from the only point that I would then raise to the members is that the challenge with all of this is that if there are no decisions, I mean, for instance, this process started way back 2021, but we haven't exactly moved forward because there is no agreement on the strategy. There are lots of things that we are, for as NERSA, are working on, that until you make a distinctive decision, this is direction that I'm going. It does not mean that the following day you're going to wake up there. But at least you make a decision in terms of, am I going to Cape Town or am I going to Harare? Once you've made that decision in which direction you are taking, then we can start plotting properly. And yes, we need to have lots of conversations with with all stakeholders, internal and external. But those conversations must have a direction. At this stage, the challenge is that there is no direction. So and by the way, as I've indicated, Plan B is not meant to be a stopgap measure. It's an either-or. If we don't go Plan A, if we decide that we are going to Harare, then we'll actually have to align all of the trucks and basically all of the equipment that we have and put all our resources to a trip to Harare. But if we're going to Cape Town, we're going to put all our resources in that direction, knowing pretty well that neither of those roads are going to be easy. They bring with it their own challenges. So at any rate, but all we are asking is that at some point, we need to make a decision. Which direction are we generally going for? The problem with the rule approach is that once something is approved as the rule, that would be, yes, it's not going to be a rule that becomes immediately implementable, but it would be a rule that would have a set date in terms of when we're going to comply. Then it gets people to then, unfortunately, there's not going to be, once the rule is then operational, it doesn't give much leeway in terms of deviating from the rule, except that when we do deviate and we apply, like any other law, you are accommodated for a particular period. So I'm just pleading with the members here that at some point we got to make a decision. We're going to go one direction or the other. So in this particular case, there are two directions. Plan A, which is the preferred one, which is regulating the industry through a rule, generally applicable, or Plan B, which is going through the revenue requirement rule, plus the structure of tariffs, plus the actual tariffs for each of the licensees. Those are the parts that we've seen. We haven't seen any other, unfortunately. So those are the plans that are put before the committee. Yes, with, of course, the preferred being Plan A, which is regulating an industry through that rule. But clearly, Mr. Mkhize, workshops, stakeholder engagements. Once we've decided one direction or the other, we will have to have tons of this, but at least they will be directional. At this stage, we are all over the show. So that is the reason we are asking. That is all that I'm really pleading with members. I mean, for instance, I know that there's an issue about data. As I've said at the REC meetings, I envy some of the work that PPR have done in terms of regulatory data. And it's there. Everybody that's got an ERP system, the data that is required is already in the system, because we collect data per cost code. And that cost code is just really just aligning whether that cost reports to a particular function or whatever. And in terms of regulatory account, data is there. It's the willingness to provide it which might not be there, which might need to be workshopped. So I guess, but we can't start until there's a decision at NERSA. And that's going to be my appeal. But anyway, Madam Masetti, sorry, I couldn't read your chats. I don't know if you want to speak to one or two of them before we can actually, I can take members. I can request a decision from the members. Consumer data, Madam Masetti, it's licensees do have it. It's just that whether they are willing to share it or not. Thanks. But anyway, please proceed, ma'am.
Okay, no, Chairperson, I think, and I hear you regarding the issue of the decisions, and you'll recall that initially during our discussions, members were not on the same page as to what is there, what is required, and also just to be certain that this thing will actually, be done successfully, and come 2025 we will have a price. So we're still trying to find each other there, and there was an issue of the sequencing of these issues, and also to look into some risk involved. So we couldn't have that information regarding the risk involved to say that if this does not happen because of this, then what is the fallback position come 2025? So those are some of the things that we're missing, and also just the sequencing. And also when we talk about the level of readiness, it involves a number of things, like we have stated, Chairperson, systems, training of people, availability of data, accessing that data in time, analyzing that data, and all of that. So those are some of the things that we're missing. But I do want to also just say that, as you know, Chairperson, we were, very much supportive of the move away from the approach that we've been using all along. And this is evidenced by the decision that was taken in 2021, I think November 2021, when we approved the principles for the EPDM. Because now we're moving towards regulating the tariffs and not the revenue. So you've explained that, and I think we've lost each other along the way, as we were expecting now the actual draft of the methodology few months after November 2021. I think that's where the challenges were, so that we can see how these principles were now incorporated and how this thing is going to pan out, during implementation. So I think that, and Mr. Mkhize after that also tried to say, let us see sort of the roadmap, so that we see what are the key steps here, and how do we fill in some of the gaps that, as we see it as individual members, we find it difficult to see the picture, the whole picture, the holistic picture. So I think that those are some of the things, Chairperson, that maybe we sort of missed each other in terms of understanding where we are going, and also ensuring that decisions will be taken in time. But should we all be on that page, and we tried during meetings to clarify those things. And it is just the way that we present them in paper, so that what you explain, it is also on paper, and then we can see where we are now, and then we tick, and then we all get comfort. I think maybe this is just the way of presenting these things to assist members in taking decisions faster, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Massetti. Mr. Mkhize?
Yes, Chairperson. You know, I had a bitter experience of switch over with nothing in place, and having to get the new system to work at all costs, and it comes at a price. It's a good thing sometimes not to have plan B, I must say, but it depends on the environment and the risks attached thereto, so that one can then do all that is required to get a new system to work. But we would appreciate the risk and the kind of environment that we're in. I think that I would support what is presented before us, but request that there be proper interrogation of all the factors, particularly from a point of view of the practicalities when it comes to implementation and implementing in time, such that if we need to look at a stopgap measure instead of an alternative, we do that. But then we being cognizant of the resources that will then be required. You know how many times in the past I've spoken about the issue of the program and program management, and the issue of the roadmap and having the portfolio of projects underway, so that we can be rest assured from our side that all is in place for us to implement things accordingly, taking into cognizance that there will be hiccups here and there, but we are up to it. So I would support it with that understanding, that for that kind of a decision. Because for me, it's not a question of saying we just decide we want this. It should be informed by a host of factors, and we go with what will serve South African cooperation the best at this point in time in our path of regulating this industry. I will leave it at that, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Massetti, and thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I think both of you, one thing that I've actually heard you very strongly, Mr. Mkhize, even if we go down path A, if we decide that we still need to work out risk mitigation. We need to have contingency plans even within that plan. Unfortunately, Plan B is not a contingency plan for Plan A. But even if the decision is made on Plan A, we still need to then work out contingency plan. What if this doesn't happen? Then what? That we still need to do. And I really, really appreciate that input from you colleagues. And also appreciate, Madam Massetti, that the challenge in translating a vision into paper is very difficult. Especially because we also have to take a lot of people with, and the interpretations might not always be the same. But the intention is very clear. What scares me, I think, personally, is that we have this the market that is envisaged in respect of the Electricity Regulation Act. The transition from a single buyer to a market like that is without any other steps in between would be almost impossible. Well, not impossible, but extremely difficult. That whatever that we're doing has to be in anticipation of the Electricity Regulation Act or the amendment bill coming up with this wholesale market where you totally deregulated generation And the question is, how then do you manage that? And the role of traders, we've got a lot of traders coming into. We need to be able to find a way of managing all of this. And the bill, the existing act itself, requiring us to separate, for instance, distribution from trading, which we really didn't do in the past. But it's there in the act. We're supposed to be doing that. There are lots of things that are coming to a fold, and it scares me. And Mr. Mkhize, I understand where you're coming from. When I had to introduce the electricity, sorry, the petroleum regulatory, the licensing system into the petroleum sector, we actually had to worry about the introduction of the regulatory accounting system in the petroleum sector. But maybe petroleum sector is different. It's always been private sector led in the main, right? This one has been public sector led in the main. So, the challenges in terms of energy are actually, I understand exactly what you mean. And sometimes having to manage trying to introduce fuel specifications with a particular thing and it doesn't pan out. I get your concern, Mr. Mkhize. Hence why we need to have, whatever plan that we approve, we still need to work out contingency plans. And so that is what I'm going to really request of members. Sorry, I know I'm at the risk of introducing new things when you've already at least heard what we are trying to do. I just thought I would actually just share those comments. But clearly, communication, whichever direction we take, there is going to be tons of communication. There's going to be tons of convincing, of winning people over. It's a change program. So with that, members, I'm not sure if there are any further comments. If not, then I would then like to take us to the decision that is sought. Members, which is basically a decision which is on an overstamp page 18, spill over to page 19. It's just a recommendation to ER for a direction. We are the team is here to request the ELS to recommend to ER to approve the rule as attached here, to recommend to ER to approve the rule and approve the reasons for decisions, and to note the preparation as well, which will be involved, both in terms of the capacity internally, and I think in terms of stakeholder readiness. I'd like to then add that with the view that we will then prepare a contingency plan, a risk mitigation plan, as proposed by Mr. Mkhize, and also to then detail some of the issues, especially in terms of stakeholder readiness, to detail those issues. And then 18.14 to note the intention is to implement the rule from the financial year 25-26. So that is the decision, members, that is sought. I don't know by show of hands, members, if we can support that decision. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Madam Spear, Mr. Mkhize. Advocate Tole, comfortable? Thank you, Advocate. I would also support. So, and thank you, members. It is a risk, but and we really need to have risk mitigation approaches in how we manage the risk. And it's something that I think, as the team, they would need to actually start thinking about as we go to ER. Thank you. It's been a very lengthy process, but I thank you for the decision. All right, if we can step off that one, go to item 11, the regulatory clearing account. Mr. Shows.
Thank you, Chairperson. The next one, Chair, it's submission on to request the electricity subcommittee to recommend to the energy regulator to approve Eskom's MIPD 4RCA application for 2021-2022 financial year, and also to approve the RFD thereof. This one, Chair, will be led by Datin Takin and his team. Over to you, Tilly.
Thank you, Chairperson and Baba Shows. This is Chairperson, a submission on Eskom RCA application. The submission served at the ER is not serving at the ELS for the first time. It served at the ELS and it was recommended to the ER of the 26th However, the members of the ER requested that the submission be returned back for enhancements. And enhancements include the decision table and decision 2, that the decision table needs to be rechecked to ensure that all the amounts add up, more especially the application column. The team went back with the submission and clean up all the possible errors and also make the table to be presentable. And also the decision 2 was enhanced as requested by the members. The rep tables, there were a request that they must include the variance column and the original applied for amount. Those tables, they were also enhanced to accommodate or to implement the guidance received from the member. There was also a request to ensure that there is no deviation, and if there's deviation, it must be indicated. The team went and checked again. There was no deviation, and it was indicated that in each section there's an indication that there is no deviation from the methodology. So, Chairperson, the ELS is requested to recommend to the energy regulator the decision and the reason for decision, which is attached as Annexure A. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ntaken. Before I open this to members, I do want to, and maybe we can have, if it's possible, if time allows, just a short session in a governance, on the governance side, to talk about some of the issues that maybe we can't talk about in this platform on this application. But I do want to say the team has acknowledged that, you know, in terms of writing, certain things could be done better, and so forth. And I acknowledge the pain that when numbers don't add up, especially in the first table, it does cause challenges in terms of the readers, in terms of believing anything else that follows. That to that effect, I think what we are trying to do is to come up with a peer review approach, where, you know, we've got 3 divisions at NERSA that are all technically inclined, that would be useful to get one to then check the numbers or the presentation as done by somebody else, so that at least we can improve on the quality. We do need to have a program, but I think not, as long as that does not risk the decisions and we actually end up delaying you know, things that are meant to improve the lot of the licensees or basically of South Africa, that we need to put up a program that assists each other. But let's build each other, colleagues. This is one of those that has been kind of soul-destructing, if I may say so. I'm really hoping that we'll find a way of all of us picking ourselves up on this one. But I would like to then invite, maybe at the end of once the meeting is closed, to just get a word or two from members as well on this, and the general approach in terms of matters like that. Things like this don't happen again. We can't have things that serve before ELS, take time at ELS, go to ER, take time at ER, then go back to ELS as well. It's really time consuming. But with that, members, I'd like to open up this matter for the conversation. Any questions, comments? What sits before us now? By show of hands, members. Since again, it seems like this time it's presented, it's clear. And thanks for fixing all of the errors that were identified in the previous one. So there are no hands from members. So I'd like to then take members to a decision that is again sought, which is a recommendation which is on paragraph 14, page 6 of 7. No, Mr. Mkhize, I see your hand is up.
Thanks, Chairperson, and thanks to Ntaken and the team for the presentation. Firstly, I'd just like to say, if you go to table 1, if they can just also make sure that the tables are readable, it will help. And then I can see that the RAP becomes a critical factor in the ultimate determination. I just wanted to I think it's going to be important to make sure to also double check, as when one looks at the 7.2.4 going forward, just to in ensuring that all the MYPD4 methodology criteria are complied with, and that what all that we use here is in line with the methodology, our own methodology. I'm not disputing the figures as such, but I'm just appealing to the team to just double check on that. Because it becomes the basis on which everything then flows. But I do support the decision, the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Mr. Ntageni, that's for enhancement. Just please double check before we go to ER again, just for your own comfort again. So when the matter goes before ER, we can again safely say, especially on that RAB. I know it's something that I think Mr. Ramkoka is it's an area that he contributes to in detail, if I'm not mistaken. But please double check on that. Thank you. Any other comments, members? If none, again, can I then take you again to paragraph 14 in terms of that recommendation? That is, the recommendation is to recommend to ER to approve the decision. Again, we can't mention numbers because that decision is for the ER, but to approve the decision on the MYPD4 RCA application for the financial year 21-22. Which is under table 5. But again, colleagues, if we can then maybe not use copies from the in terms of tables, I think it may be useful to retype those to have those tables actually taken from Excel rather than from a PDF document, because that's why they actually look like that. Please, if we can just update all of the tables and make sure that they are more legible. So the decision that is sought is on paragraph 14.11 and 14.12, which are the reasons for decisions. Members, by show of hands, can we recommend? Thank you, Madam Massetti. Thank you, Mr. Mkiza. Thank you, Advocate Sitole. Madam Spear, thank you, Madam. Thank you. So, since again, you've got your decision. Please just verify, please. And if you please, the plea is, can we change when this matter goes before ER? Please change those tables. Don't use a copy function from PDF. Get them from your Excel tables, and so it will make the readability a whole lot easier. Thank you. With that, can we then step off that item 11, go to item 12? Mr. Shozi, item 12.
Thank you, Chairperson. The next submission, Chair, is an application from Envusa Energy Pty Ltd, which is applying to hold electricity trading license in terms of ERA. Chairperson, again, this one will be done by Mr. Mwanza. The focus will be on the guidance that was given by the pre-hearing that took place on the 4th of August 2023. Of which the team has addressed those issues and interacted with the applicant and came back with a complete application that, in our views, is compliant with ERA. Over to you, Mr. Mwanza.
Well, thank you, Mr. Shozi. Good morning to Chairperson, members, colleagues, and the members of the public. The purpose of this submission, Chair, is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to recommend to the Energy Regulator to approve Envusa's Energy application for an electricity trading license. This matter is duly delegated to this committee, Chair. This matter duly went a public participation process where during the pre-hearing, The members advise that Envusa should acquire the amended use of system agreement and also the electricity supply agreement pertaining to their customers and generators, as well as a revising of the non-confidential application form. Chair Envusa did comply upon our guidance and advice, and they've submitted all those documents. Chair, we therefore recommend the recommendations that are set out in section 14 of the submission. For record purposes, Chair, allow me to quickly read the recommendation. It is recommended that the Electricity Subcommittee recommends to the Energy Regulator to approve that Envusa Energy Pty Ltd be issued with an electricity trading license with the conditions imposed. Approve the tariff in the customer power purchase agreement between Envusa and DBS Consolidated Mines. Approve the tariff in the customer power purchase agreement between Envusa Energy and Rustenburg Platinum Mines. Approve the tariff in the customer power purchase agreement between Envusa and the Sishen Iron Ore Company. Approve that the BS wind power and Moy plant solar power and Umsobomvu wind power be included in Schedule 2 of the license condition of Envusa as the suppliers of the renewable energy. Also approve that the BS Consolidated Mines Ltd, Rustenburg Platinum Mines, Sishen Iron Ore Company be included in the Schedule 3 of the license conditions of Envusa. No to the 20-year generator power purchase agreements between Envusa and its 3 generators, has the BS Hook wind power, Moy plant solar power, Umsobomvu wind power. Chair, I just want to declare that decision 14.18, there's an error there. However, we'll correct the error when we go to the ER. We recommend and to note the 20-year customer power purchase agreement between Envusa and the 3 customers who are the BS Consolidated Mines, Rustenburg Platinum Mines, Sishen Iron Ore Mine Company, and also approve the draft decision and reasons for decision documentation. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mwanza. Members, this one is one of those that has long been with us. Yes, there were challenges in terms of the application being compliant with the minimum requirement in terms of minimum requirement in terms of information to satisfy Section 10(2) of the Act. It is finally here before us. So I don't know if there are any comments, members, questions. Starting with yourself, Advocate Stoller. Thank you, ma'am.
Chairperson, mine is not really a question, but to just appeal to the team to say that we need to improve in terms of our turnaround times. Yes, the application took long, but again, if you look at the pre-hearing that we had, the time from that pre-hearing up until we have the submission today at the ELS, which still needs to go to the ER, it has taken too long. So I think there is a need somewhere for us to really try and improve on our turnaround times. That is just an appeal from my side. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. Mr. Mkhize?
Whilst noting the appeal from the CEO, I would also like to stress that we need to be, more focused on the issue of adequacy of applications. Things could have, followed a different path and could have been handled, and the applicants and licensees, even the prospective applicants out there, they must know that it doesn't help to ignore what the technical team advises on in terms of provision of information that will enable proper evaluation or assessment of an application. I think that is very important to communicate, especially in this platform, noting that this is meetings open to the public, that prospective applicants, please ensure that you take heed of the advice that comes from the technical team in respect of the information that needs to be provided for us to progress. I'm saying this was we've also observed some of the things in the other directoral division that talk to sometimes applicants not providing information, and then you end up with a decision that is actually suboptimal, not helping any of us. We want to see investments out there. At the same time, we want to ensure that there's proper and orderly development. I just want to stress that it's not a question as such, but something that needs to be stressed, and at the same time convey the message to licensees, prospective licensees, and prospective applicants. Thank you.
Thank you to both yourselves, Advocate Sithole and Mr. Mkhize. Thank you for your inputs. I think, Mr. Mwanza, there is as you heard, it's a request. Let's try to improve on the turnaround, taking into account also the issues that have been raised, which are very fundamental issues also that have been raised by Mr. Mkhize. And yeah, it's important that the message is correct out there, because sometimes it may come across, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, Mr. Mwanza, that maybe there are certain standards that are set higher for certain applicants and not for others, when in fact it was because of information that was not provided. And that it's not like there are any rules that we actually, that certain applicants are treated to a different standard than others. So that is important. I think we know that the applicant is aware of these conversations that we are talking about. And yes, I know they have requested, because they've got financial close issues, that this matter be, if possible, and it was going to be my request at the end of this, that this matter be recommended to be handled by a round robin, because there's a financial close concern by the members, by the applicant on some of the deals. So, but at the same time, the blame, the applicant has to shoulder some blame. Well, maybe more blame than the team here, in terms of provision of information. And it's important that the message be sent out there that we are supportive of investments, but we are there for this request, that information that is being requested, because it's based on the law. It's not based on the whims of the team, but it's based on the law, that information be provided. So I don't know, Mr. Mwanza, do you still want to say something on this further to what I've just said?
No, thank you. Thank you. I welcome the advice from the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mwanza. Any further comments, members? If not, can I then take you to the decision? And thank you, Mr. Mwanza, for reading all of those into the record and correcting that 4.18. Funny enough, I thought I'd requested it be changed at some point, but it's it's something that those gremlins do come in. So members, that's the decision that is sorted on page 4. It's on page 7 of 8, paragraph 14. Can I see by show of hands, members, if we can recommend to ER with that change that Mr. Mwanza will effect? Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Thank you, Ms. Spear. Thank you, Advocate Sithole. Thank you, members, for the decision. Mr. Mwanza, you've got a decision. And item 13, Mr. Shozi.
Thank you, Chairperson. The next one, Chair, it's a progress report on ESCOM 10-year negotiated price agreement, NPA, between them and Hillside. The report covers the period between 1st of Feb 2023 and 31st July 2023. Ms. Mapinha will be presenting this one. Boy, 1 minute, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Shozi.
But please, before you do, please indicate if there are any confidential numbers, so we don't mention them. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson, members and colleagues. Just to state upfront that all numbers are confidential as approved by the energy regulator. Chairperson NESA approved a 10-year NPA for the hillside smelter, and one of the requirements is that Eskom submits 6-monthly progress report in order for NESA to monitor the implementation as well as assess if the intended impact is being achieved. Table 4, Chairperson, on page 4, the table on page 4 indicates that the hillside smelter has performed against the NERSA decision, and we therefore conclude that the NPA between Eskom and Hillside complies with the decision of the energy regulator. We therefore request members to note the 6 months report on Eskom's 10-year NPA for Hillside Smelter for the period 1 February 2023 to 31 July 2023. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mabinya. Members, the submissions before us for comments, questions, clarity, as long as we maintain the confidentiality. If there are any questions of clarity, members. Advocate Sithole.
Chairperson, thanks to the presenter. Just for clarity from my side, in terms of processing this information when we get to Eskom, do we just take it as it is from Eskom and then look at it and make a submission, or do we have a way of doing our own independent verification of what is being presented to us or not? I just wanted to get clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate. Mr. Mkhize?
Partly covered by Madam CEO. I just got the other issue that other than revenue, I think we also need to keep track of compliance with other laws by these smelters, so that we're not seen as if we just remain ignorant of non-compliance, and actually we're supporting a non-compliant. In fact, the system continues to support a non-compliant operator. So from my side, I think let us also consider that aspect, other than just getting the figures as presented to us, and only look at those figures. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mabinya? Responses?
Thank you, Chairperson. When we get the report, we usually verify what Eskom is saying. For example, in terms of the price and consumption, we would request evidence in terms of the invoice that Eskom has billed to the smelter. So we do not just take, but we do verify what Eskom has submitted. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. And then the comment by Mr. Mkhize, do you want to say something to it? The compliance with other laws?
Sorry, I didn't get that, Chairperson.
It's a compliance with other laws. We verify that whoever that we are supporting is complying with other laws, and that we don't just support somebody that is actually actively defying the South African legal system.
When the NPA gets approved, we do check if they do not have any legal pending issues when we assess the application, because even the framework itself does not allow any NPAs that have any legal implications. So it does not get processed if there are such things, but we don't really assess with other laws when we
when we do the monitoring report. I hope I've covered what Mr. Mkhize is requesting.
There's a quick follow-up from Mr. Mkhize.
I'm not entirely covered, but I appreciate the response. Then the important thing to do is maybe try to find some report in that regard. Because sometimes it could be very embarrassing. You support someone, we know the history of this country, you find that then you get in the newspapers, there are reports of extreme racism or all those things that you find. You find that there's non-compliance to other laws of the country, and doing that brazenly. So we don't want to get those things to be surprising to us. Yes, they are not within our ambit as such in terms of enforcement, but we need to be made aware of that to make sure that we don't really find ourselves embarrassed by some of these things. That is all from my side. It's for me to say, just consider that in terms of enriching the report, to say we're just not just looking at the figures that are there.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Valuable input for enhancement, Ms. Mabenya. It's just an enhancement. Can I take a further follow-up from Advocate Sithole?
Thank you, Chairperson. Mine is an enhancement based on the response given by Ms. Mabenya, to say that maybe we can add under discussion to say that the information received has been verified against what she said, the invoices that were billed to the customer. And as a result thereof, the analysis as follows in that paragraph starting in page 4, so that a reader who reads can get a complete picture, that we do not just take what we get from Eskom and then put it in a submission. Let's just indicate our verification process that we follow and link it up with the assessment that we are making under page 4. It's a suggestion, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a good enhancement, Madam Mabenya. You know, I just thought sometimes one of those, as part of the assessment, Madam Mabenya, I think it would be useful for us to add things like, you know, I was reading of the job losses at ArcelorMittal, 3,500. Those are direct jobs. And in some localities like Newcastle, where the jobs in terms of the opportunities might not be too many, and us, and also in Van der Bijl Park, you know, the closure of some of those industrial complexes. That, you know, some of this, the question I couldn't help asking myself. I know that particular one, there are lots of issues. There's the issue of the steel of the price of scrap that may have affected this, and also the issues of logistics. But we know that in any of these processing plants, electricity is a major component, 20 to 50% of costs. Is that, you know, I couldn't help but ask myself, could we have saved those jobs? Is there anything that we could have done on our side with these NPAs? And sometimes it would be useful, I think, Madam Mabenya, when you look at this, to just give us as part of these reports, when we do get another one, perhaps on these ones that we've just approved, to indicate the broader side of the impact of this particular decision. Because, colleagues, we cannot be seen to not contribute towards the reindustrialization of South Africa. There are lots of opportunities, and I know that some of these decisions might just look like it's just us approving an NPA, but in some cases the impact is very, very, very big. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I can agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more on that one. I think that one, for people who are aware, I think that's the one, the his side and Bay side, where it is the Richards Bay area, as you are saying, it's providing a lot of jobs. And I think there was an issue a few years ago when the price was linked to the commodity, and therefore this was now changing it now to actually have we can call a normal PPA. Yeah, there are a lot of challenges, as you are mentioning. Some jobs were lost. based on that contract, which had to be stopped due to challenges, as there were huge losses from it. The linking to the commodity, because in that area they are providing jobs. So what you are saying, Chair, is very critical. I think we need to, at all times, be quite vigilant on these issues, because any decisions that we are making, it affects a lot of jobs in that area, and it's smaller towns. That is why there is initiatives that are currently happening in that part of town, where they are looking at all these power initiatives so that they can have power at all times. Because when you look at that type of product, it needs a lot of power. So if the price is right and they can run at all times, the jobs will be saved. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. So, Madam Abenyo, good job. I know that Mr. Murati in committee will talk to a case, something, just a brief on the case that we supposedly lost. But it's good work, Madam, in terms of the work that you guys do. It helps jobs, and this cannot be overemphasized. But anyway, colleagues, the decision that is sought is a simple one on this one. The decision is on page 6, paragraph 11.1, with all of the enhancements that have been proposed by members. The decision is, it is recommended that the ELS note the 6-month progress report on the Eskom's 10-year NPA for Hillside Aluminium Smelter, situated in Richards Bay, Umhlatuze local municipality, KwaZulu-Natal, for the period of the 1st of February 2023 to the 31st of July 2023. By show of hands, members, if we can note that. Thank you, Madam Maseti. Thank you, Advocate Sitole, Madam Spear, Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Your report is noted, Madam. Transmission report, item 14.
Yes, thanks, Chair. This one, it's a noting report again on transmission, third quarter report for 2023-2024 financial year, the combined consolidated report for compliance audit conducted on Eskom main transmission. It will be presented by Ms. Njogu. Njogu, come in, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Good day to the members and colleagues. The purpose of the submission is to request the subcommittee to note the transmission audit report for the third quarter for the new audits, as well as the re-audit, which are compliance monitoring. The electricity subcommittee is empowered to make a decision on this submission. In the third quarter, the transmission team conducted audits on 10 main transmission substations of Eskom, and 8 of those were newly audited, whereas the other 2 were previously audited substations. And we wrote our individual reports and we share them with Eskom as required by the approved transmission compliance framework for them to comment on the findings, of which they did and submitted their comment and accepted all the findings that we shared with them. The consolidated report attached, it does provide a summary of all the concerns that are outlined in those reports. However, certain details are actually added again to ensure that the public who may not have access to the individual report are informed about the approach of the audit. Despite the overall satisfactory condition of the effective maintenance of the transmission grid, the report does highlight certain areas of concern that have a potential to worsen over time. And the licensee was advised in those reports. We actually wrote the recommendations on how they can be able to take care of those things, of which they will come back to us and tell us when are they going to attend to those matters. The recommendation, we do ask the electricity subcommittee to note the consolidated report attached, and the consolidated report will be posted on NASA website once all the confidentiality areas are cleared. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Njogu. Members, the report is before us for noting. Any comments, concerns, questions? If none, Members, can I then take you to the recommendation, which is on page 5 that we are requested to note the consolidated report, which is annexed as Appendix 1. By show of hands, members, if we can note. Thank you, Mr. Mkize, Madam Spear, Madam Massetti, and Advocate Sithole. You've got your decision, Mr. Njoku, and then who's presenting item 15?
Chairperson, this one will be presented by Mr. Koboshiane. It's a progress report again on the monitoring of the implementation plan that were developed by the licensee that were audited with regards to the findings. The report is attached as Annex 1, Appendix 1, I mean. Mr. Koboshiane, coming back.
Thank you, Mr. Shozi. Good morning, Chairperson, members and colleagues, and members of the public. The purpose of this submission is to request the Electricity Subcommittee to note the progress reports on the monitoring of the implementation of the electricity distribution corrective action plans in the third quarter of 2023-24 financial year. The report is attached here to as Appendix 1. The electricity subcommittee is duly delegated as per section 3.1 and 3.6 of the electricity delegation matrix to note the monitoring of the state of the compliance of electricity distribution and the progress report. The distribution audit team monitored 5 municipalities, and the table is on page 6, which shows the summary of the corrective action plans and the implementation of the progress. Going to paragraph 14, on which is a recommendation, the Electricity Subcommittee is requested to note the progress reports on the monitoring of the implementation of the electricity distribution corrective action plan in the third quarter of the 23-24 financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koboshiane. Members, the report is here for noting. Any questions, comments? None. So members, can I then take you to a decision that is sought, which is on paragraph 14 as has been read into record. Can I just see by show of hands if we can note the report? Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Madam Spear, Madam Massetti, and Advocate Sithole. Thank you. The report is so noted. Mrs. Shozi, item 16.
Thank you, Chair. The next submission is similar. It's a request for ELS Subcommittee to note that quarter report on electricity distribution compliance audit attached as Appendix 1, which will be presented by Ms. Gove. May Gove come in?
Thank you, Skoko. Good day, Chairperson, members and colleagues. The purpose of this submission is to request the ELS to note this report. The title is Third Quarter Report on the Electricity Distribution Compliance Audits. This time around, we're consolidating 8 reports. The list of the names is on the table of contents, and the summary of findings is on page 17, and the recommendation is on page 5. And it reads that it is our request for the ELS to note this third quarter report. I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gove. I wonder who's Coco. I thought Ukabisa is Kabisa. Anyway, all right, members, we've got this report here for noting. No, just teasing you, ma'am. We've got a report here for noting. Any questions or comments, members? Doesn't seem like there are any. Ms. Gove. So members, can I then take you to the decision that is sought, which again is on paragraph 14. We are requested to note this the report on the electricity distribution industry compliance audits. By show of hands, members, if we can note. Thank you, Advocate Sithole, Madam Massetti, Mr. Mkize, and and just Mr. Mkhize and Masbia. Your report is noted, Ms. Kobe. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Skok.
Thanks, Chairperson. Chair, the next one, I think it's the submission. We have gone through round robin process. They have been approved, and it's here for noting. It's a confirmation of the approval. The next two submissions they are the same, but just to introduce the high level, Ms. Matlo will present them, but they have been approved through round robin.
Okay, maybe just to assist here on this one, can I just read it onto record in terms of what has been approved, just for confirmation, so it's on the record. So, because this is a confirmation of the approval of the round robin resolution. The round robin was to request the deviation from the revised public hearing rules and rules and notice and comment procedure formulated by NERSA to publish 5 days before the public hearing to be convened. This decision has already been effected, and the majority of the regulator members of the ELS members approved this. It was Tikumede, Advocate Sithole, Mr. Bukula, and Madam Maseti. So that one is just for confirmation. It's been read onto the record. Just assisting. It was just for noting. So, by the way, officially, do we by advice, Mr. Mabunda, do we by show of hands on this one, or do we just read it onto the record?
By show of hands, Chair.
All right.
You read it onto record, and then the committee knows it.
Okay. Members, can we note that by show of hands? Thank you, Advocate Maseti. Sorry, Madam Maseti, Masbia, Advocate Sithole, and Mr. Mkhize. I also note. So the round robin is so noted. The second one is also is here for confirmation of the approval by the round robin resolution. This one is for the publication of the consultation paper on the Eskom Holdings SOC Limited application for the 6-year negotiated pricing agreement for the Glencore Merafe Chrome Venture ferrochrome smelter operation in Rustenburg, Northwest Province. This was also approved by round robin by the majority of the ELS members, Mr. Kumede, Advocate Sithole, Mr. Bukula, and Madam Maseti. By show of hands, members, if we can note this. Thank you, Madam Maseti, Advocate Sithole, Mr. Mkhize, Madam Sdia, thank you. The round robins are so noted. Now, this brings us to the end of the open part of the meeting. I'd like to thank the members of the public that may have followed us throughout the 2.5 hours of this meeting. We thank you for your continued support. And now, Mr. Mateja, if we can then close the meeting for the public, please.